On the morning of May 29, 1453, the greatest city in the Christian world fell silent. For over 1,000 years, Constantinople had held. Barbarian armies had camped outside its walls and turned back. Arab fleets had burned in its harbor. Crusaders had sacked it, and still it had come back. It was the city that time could not kill, until the morning it did. And what died with it wasn't just a city or an empire. It was an entire world order, one that had held the line between East and West for 11 centuries. What rose from its ashes reshaped every civilization on Earth, and we are still living inside that reshaping today. To understand what the fall of Constantinople truly meant, you first have to understand what Constantinople was, because no city in human history quite resembled it. Founded by Emperor Constantine the Great in 330 AD on a triangular peninsula where Europe nearly touches Asia, it was designed from its inception to be the center of the world. 3 sides protected by water, the Sea of Marmara to the south, the Golden Horn Inlet to the north, and the western landward approach sealed by the most formidable urban fortification ever built. The Theodosian Walls, constructed in the early 5th century, ran for nearly 7 kilometers, a triple line of walls, towers, and a water-filled moat that had repelled every attacker for 1,000 years. 23 sieges, 23 failures. The walls had never been breached from the outside. Inside those walls sat the accumulated wealth, art, and knowledge of a civilization stretching back to ancient Greece and Rome. The Hagia Sophia, for 1,000 years the largest cathedral on Earth, dominated the skyline. Libraries preserved manuscripts of ancient philosophy, mathematics, medicine, and literature that existed nowhere else on Earth. The University of Constantinople, founded in the 5th century, was the oldest continuously operating institution of higher learning in the Christian world. The city was not merely a political capital, it was the keeper of Western civilization's memory. By 1453, that city had been reduced to a ghost of its former self. A century of Ottoman expansion had stripped the Byzantine Empire of virtually everything except its capital. Where once the empire had stretched across Anatolia, Greece, and the Balkans, it now controlled Constantinople and a handful of isolated territories, islands in a sea of Ottoman power. The population had collapsed from perhaps 500,000 at its medieval peak to somewhere between 50,000 and 100,000. Entire neighborhoods within the walls had been abandoned, reverting to farmland and orchards. Sheep grazed in what had once been imperial forums. The treasury was so depleted that Emperor Constantine XI had to melt down church ornaments to pay his garrison. The empire was a name attached to a city, attached to a memory. The man who came to end it was 21 years old. Mehmed II had ascended the Ottoman throne for the second time in 1451, having been briefly deposed as a teenager when his father, Murad II, returned from retirement to handle a crisis his young son had mismanaged. That humiliation had burned itself permanently into Mehmed's character. He was brilliant, educated in multiple languages, genuinely interested in philosophy and science, and consumed by a single ambition that he had nurtured since childhood, the conquest of Constantinople. He understood that taking the city would not merely be a military victory, it would make him, in his own eyes and the eyes of the Islamic world, the true heir to Rome itself. Mehmed prepared with methodical thoroughness. He commissioned the construction of a massive fortress, Rumeli Hisari, on the European shore of the Bosphorus, directly across from an existing Ottoman fortress on the Asian side, effectively sealing the strait and cutting Constantinople's sea supply lines. He recruited a Hungarian engineer named Urban, who had first offered his services to Constantine XI. The Byzantine emperor had told him he lacked the funds to pay him. Mehmed paid him 4 times what he had asked, and Urban built him a cannon so large it had no precedent in military history. The great bombard could fire stone balls weighing over 500 kilograms. Its sound, when tested outside Adrianople, was reportedly heard from miles away. When it fired its first shot at the Theodosian Walls, the ground shook for kilometers in every direction. Constantine XI faced the siege with a garrison that modern estimates place at between 7,000 and 10,000 defenders, facing an Ottoman army of somewhere between 60,000 and 80,000 troops, with a fleet of over 100 ships blockading the harbor. He sent desperate appeals across Western Europe for military aid. The responses were agonizingly inadequate. Venice sent a handful of ships after long deliberation. Genoa sent a condottiere, a mercenary commander, named Giovanni Giustiniani Longo, with 700 soldiers. The Pope promised more than he delivered. The relief that Constantinople needed never came, because no Western power could agree on how much the city's survival was worth to them until it was too late to matter. The siege began on April 6, 1453. Urban's great cannon fired at the Theodosian Walls daily, and the walls, designed to resist everything the medieval world had previously built, began to crack under a weapon the medieval world had never imagined. The Byzantines worked desperately through the nights to repair the breaches, packing rubble and timber into gaps that each morning's bombardment would open again. For 7 weeks, this exhausting cycle continued, the Ottomans battering, the defenders rebuilding, both sides sustaining casualties neither could easily replace. Mehmed's naval campaign hit an unexpected obstacle. A chain the Byzantines had stretched across the mouth of the Golden Horn successfully blocked his fleet from entering the harbor and attacking the city's northern seawalls, the least heavily defended section of the fortifications. Mehmed's response was one of the most audacious military engineering feats of the 15th century. He had his ships dragged overland across a greased wooden trackway constructed over the hills north of the city and relaunched inside the Golden Horn. 70 Ottoman ships appeared overnight inside the harbor that the chain was supposed to make impenetrable. The psychological impact on the defenders was devastating. By late May, the garrison was exhausted beyond recovery. Giustiniani, the Genoese commander whose energy and tactical skill had been the spine of the defense, was wounded by a cannon fragment on the morning of May 29th and carried from the walls. His departure broke something in the defenders that no military order could restore. In the pre-dawn darkness of that morning, Mehmed launched his final assault simultaneously against multiple sections of the walls. Ottoman forces found a small gate, the Kerkaporta, that had been left unlatched in the confusion of the night's fighting. They poured through it. Within minutes, Ottoman flags were appearing on the towers above. Constantine XI, seeing the end, reportedly tore off his imperial insignia and charged into the fighting on foot with the last of his household guard. His body was never definitively identified afterward, only recognized, it was said, by his purple boots. The last Roman emperor died in the streets of his city on the morning it ceased to be Roman. Mehmed entered the city that afternoon on horseback. He rode directly to the Hagia Sophia, ordered it converted immediately into a mosque, and reportedly wept at the beauty and the ruin of what he had taken. He proclaimed himself Kaiser Irum, Caesar of Rome. He was 21 years old. He meant it entirely. The consequences radiated outward from that morning with a speed and reach that nobody standing in the ruins of Constantinople could have fully anticipated. Byzantine scholars, and there were many still in the city, fled westward carrying manuscripts. Those manuscripts, arriving in Italy in the hands of educated refugees, accelerated the Renaissance already underway there with an infusion of ancient Greek texts that Western Europe had forgotten existed. Plato, Thucydides, Archimedes, works preserved in Constantinople for centuries, entered Western intellectual circulation in the years immediately following 1453 and helped ignite the scientific and philosophical revolution that would define the next 2 centuries of European thought. The Ottoman control of Constantinople and the broader Ottoman domination of eastern Mediterranean and overland trade routes to Asia made the existing commercial arteries of European trade dramatically more expensive and less reliable. European merchant powers, particularly Portugal and Spain, intensified their search for alternative sea routes to Asian markets. Vasco da Gama rounded Africa and reached India in 1498. Christopher Columbus sailed west in 1492, believing he would reach Asia and finding instead a hemisphere Europe had not known existed. The age of exploration and everything that flowed from it, including the entire history of the Americas, was accelerated decisively by the commercial pressures that the fall of Constantinople intensified. The date 1453 sits in history as a conventional marker for the end of the Middle Ages and the beginning of the early modern period. Like all such markers, it is a simplification, but it is not a wrong one. The world that existed on May 28, 1453, with its Byzantine Christianity, its overland Silk Road commerce, its medieval power structures, was genuinely different from the world that began assembling itself from May 29th onward. The cannon that broke the Theodosian Walls didn't just end a siege. It announced that the military technology, the trade routes, the religious geography, and the political order of the medieval world were all simultaneously in the process of being replaced. Constantine XI held the walls for 53 days with a garrison that had no right to hold them that long. He had no rescue coming, no realistic hope of survival, and no illusions about what the end would bring. He held anyway, because the city behind those walls was worth holding for as long as it could be held. Some things are worth defending past the point of hope. History remembers the ones who understood that.